Captain's log, temporal date unknown. A prisoner's escaped. Our warden is furious and somehow fashion advice got involved. Welcome to the First City! Hey Captains, welcome back to Captain's Temporal Star Chronicle. Today we're continuing our adventure with the Klingon recruit, diving into the second mission of the first Klingon story arc, Empire. This one's called The Hunt Is On. It's another short and sweet mission, but it features one notable species from Star Trek lore. So, if you're into classic callbacks and chaotic prison breaks, you're in for a treat. Before we beam down, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying this journey through space and time. Your support keeps the Chronicle alive and thriving. Now, with the tricorders ready and disruptors charged, let's move on to the main story. Like I said, this one's short, sweet, and just the right amount of chaos. Perfect for new players who want to get their boots dirty exploring the Konos ground map for a city. It all kicks off with our favorite Grumpy Gorn, Warden Gazan, hollering that a Federation prisoner has busted out of jail. So, no high-tech escape tools here, just some good old-fashioned yelling and confusion. A+ for prison security. Our escapee didn't go solo, he was helped by an Orion and a Nausicaan buddy, because what's a jailbreak without a squad? From there, we go full Klingon noir. We interrogate a judge by the Lake of Fire, who's clearly seen too much, get fashion tips from Taylor to Look, space fugitives gotta look good, and visit a bar where every drink comes with an extra shady intel. Now cue the fireworks. Literally. We chase down leads through smoky slums, have a heart-to-heart with a syndicate fixer, and end up in a safe house filled with bomb-happy Federation ptach. And just when things seem like they can't get any weirder, bam! Our slippery escapee shows up doing his best "you'll never catch me" routine. With Chagrin's prompting, we dash to the shipyard. There we find out that the last transporter officer got fired. By execution. And meet the galaxy's most chill used shuttle salesman, who casually sells escapee wheels with bridge officer manuals on the side. Because of course he does. We wrap it all up with a call to Gazan, and boom! Mission complete. It's a fast-paced, delightfully ridiculous ride with lots of flavor and great for learning the lay of the land in the First City. You can definitely feel 15-year-old game mechanics here, but you know what? It's worth it. It's a necessary introduction for new players. We are continuing our Konos ground map exploration in the First City. The mission kicks in automatically once you exit the warehouse from Duties of Command. There are just a couple of places you need to visit, but we'll talk about them in the next chapter. Since the mission story is on the lighter side, I thought it was the perfect moment to dive into something super useful, like bridge officers or buffs. These are your loyal crew, your battle buddies, and your secret weapon pool of awesome abilities. Kinda. Think of buffs as your core crew, your personal team for away missions and space battles during regular gameplay. They're not with you during the TFOs though, since those are group-based missions where real players take over the roles. But outside of TFOs, your buffs are your best buds. Now, bridge officers are a deep topic. We're talking about maybe a couple of video-worthy content. But let's hit the basics here. You can recruit up to 54 bridge officers if you're willing to pay for them. That's a full crew roster ready to support your builds and strategies. You can check them out anytime in your character status window, or you can use the shortcut U to open up that window. Now, each bridge officer comes with 4 fixed traits, which mainly boost ground combat performance. Some even have some passive effects that benefit your haul-away team or your ship. These traits come in 3 different levels. We have basic, standard, and superior. Depending on the level, traits give you a 50% to 150% power boost. So we start with basic of 50, standard is 100, and superior is 150 power boost. Here's how traits typically stack up based on the buff's rarity. That means when you get a bridge officer, depending on the rarity of such officer, this is kind of a combination of traits that you can expect. So for the common bridge officers, you will get 2 basics and 2 standard traits. For the uncommon, we get 1 basic and 3 standard traits. For rare, we get 1 basic, 2 standard, and 1 superior. And finally, for very, very rare, we get 2 standard and 2 superior. But that's not all. Buffs can also be trained to learn new abilities, both for ground and space roles. To train them in these abilities, you'll need a training manual and some expertise points. Each bridge officer can equip 4 active abilities at the time. They can basically learn everything, a whole bunch more, using those training manuals and some expertise. Think of it as like sending them to Starfleet Night School, or the Klingon equivalent, which probably involves yelling and buttlets. Basically, you just need a training manual and you just apply it here on your buff's abilities. It's as simple as that. Majority of those manuals you can get from bridge officer trainers and requisition locations for each major faction. And we'll talk about where you can find them in a minute, but generally, most of those abilities can be found there. You can also purchase them on the exchange. So you can go there, buy them cheap, sell them expensive, but I mean, that's if you don't have the time to go to one of the locations where you can find them. Some of these abilities you will actually need to craft yourself, and some of them are in lockboxes. So those abilities you are either going to need to open some lockboxes to get, or my personal tip is to just go on the exchange and buy them. Okay, now let's take a quick tour of the bridge officer trainers and requisition locations for each major faction. Perfect for new captains looking to gear up their crew. So Federation captains, head over to the Earth space dock to the personnel area. You'll find your bridge officer trainer and requisition officer conveniently standing near each other. No Starfleet red tape required, just credits and a plan. Klingon warriors. Your bridge officer contacts are at Kronos, typically near the Great Hall, diagonally right across the transporter room in First City. It's all business, quick, efficient, and not so loud. Dominion captains, you'll want to stop by Deep Space Nine, head to the Ops, where your trainer and requisition officer hang out. Probably wondering where you've been. And finally, Romulan allies. You can visit Romulan flotilla for your bridge officer needs. The bridge officer trainer and requisition officer are in the command area, ready to help you build a crew that lives up to the legacy of the Empire or Republic, depending on your vibe. So from these locations, you can pick up new bridge officer candidates, purchase training manuals, now, there's another way of getting those training manuals, and one of them is converting the bridge officers that you don't plan on using into a training manual. It's very simple. Just right-click on the bridge officer that you plan to convert, and here you can see convert it into the manual. You do that, and you can choose from one of the 6 abilities this bridge officer has. You can convert it into a manual, and then you can just apply it to one of your characters or sell it on the exchange. So, whether you're gearing up for a tactical blitz or preparing for science shenanigans, your buffs are only as good as the training you give them. And these locations are your go-to hubs to make it happen. As we continue through the mission, the first new character we meet is Judge Hodge. A Klingon judge you can find near the Fire Lake by the exchange area in the first city. Now, Hodge is interesting because he's a one-time encounter. This is the only mission you'll go to interact with him, so make it count. He's just there to help move the story along, and then he's off the radar. Next up, we meet Taylor T'Look, who's a bit of a regular in the world of fashion. He's the only character you'll be seeing more than once. And regularly. Well, as regular as you'd change your look. Taylor T'Look is the guy you'll want to visit whenever you need a new style or want to tweak your appearance. No real storyline for him, just straight up wardrobe upgrades. Then there's the bartender, another NPC I find myself regularly visiting. The bartender's role? Selling loot and grabbing a drink when things get a little too intense. You'll probably stop by often to sell off your spoils from the battle. He's a he and a she, there's another bartender on the other end. They're a handy NPC, no doubt, but not someone you'll form any deep connections with. Besides T'Look and bartender, like I said, none of the other NPCs in this mission are characters you'll interact in the future. They're just here to serve the story and set the scene. But once you're done with the mission, it's goodbye. Alright, this part is all about the Orions. These green-skinned, strikingly tall humanoids made quite a few appearances in this mission, so let's dive into who they are. First off, let's talk about the Orion's place in galaxy, according to Star Trek Online Wiki. These folks are now part of the Klingon Empire thanks to the pact they struck in 2394. This agreement promises non-aggression and mutual defense, so they're officially on the same side now. But let's be real, they've got their own agendas. When it comes to the appearance, both Orion men and women stand out. Orion men are tall, muscular, and often bold, mostly due to all that physical labor. They've got the build from a life of hard work. As for the Orion women, they're practically twins of human females, with just one major difference. Their skin is a striking shade of green. But here's where it gets interesting. Some Orion females have super strong pheromones that they can control at will. And trust me, they've got the charm to seduce just about any guy. Well, except for the Vulcans. Those Vulcan guys are pretty immune to the effect. Orion women are also in charge of the Orion Society. They run the show, dominate relationship, and even lead the notorious Orion Syndicate. So yeah, when it comes to Orions, the ladies are definitely in charge. Now, let's get into the real history of Orions in Star Trek universe because their first official appearance is a bit tricky. Chronologically speaking, their first appearance in Star Trek universe was in the episode Menagerie Part 2 that aired in 1966, where we see the first Orion in a brief plot point revolving around a dancing Orion slave girl in one of Captain Pike's illusions. Now, here's where things get interesting. Menagerie was an episode that repurposed the footage from an unaired pilot, The Cage. That pilot is notable for starring Captain Christopher Pike instead of Captain Kirk, with a completely different crew, except for Mr. Spock. That pilot episode was eventually first aired in 1988, so depending on whether or not you're counting Cage as the first episode or not, depends when Orions had their first appearance. Canonically, the Orions made their first real debut in Star Trek Enterprise Season 4, Episode 17 called Bound, which aired in 2004. In this episode, 3 Orion women make the Enterprise crew fall under their seductive control. And it's not just about their looks. These women possess pheromones that have an intense effect on the men around them. But here's the kicker. Trip is the only guy who doesn't fall for it. And there's a good reason for that. According to the T'Pol, let her explain this one.
It's difficult to explain. Feelings, thoughts, even images can be shared.
It's daydreams.
What?
When I said before that I wasn't having any daydreams about you, it wasn't actually true. So if we're bonded, what does this have to do with me not being affected by the Orions?
I'm immune to the pheromones because of my Vulcan physiology.
And you're making me immune.
Apparently.
I don't know whether to be relieved or really worried.
Me too, buddy. These are some wacky powers that Vulcans have. And that's when we get the addition to the canon. Orion women possess this powerful pheromone that controls men, who in turn end up being slaves to their will. In the Orion Syndicate, it's definitely the women who hold the power, and the men, well, they follow. And there you have it. The Orions, from their first mysterious appearance to their official debut, bringing their powerful pheromones and a little bit of chaos into the galaxy. Since we've been talking about Orions a lot in this episode, it only makes sense to wrap it up with one of their iconic ships. And while it's a bit of a rare sight in Star Trek Online, Orion ships aren't exactly fighting the game. So let's take a closer look at the Fleet Orion Blackguard Flight Deck Assault Carrier. The first time we see this ship in Star Trek canon was in the aforementioned Enterprise episode Bound. The episode is pretty memorable because we got up close up and personal with this ship, and trust me, it's got some serious firepower. When you look at the design, it really gives off some Star Wars vibes. Seriously, it's kind of like World War II gunner airplane, but on steroids. That bulk, those guns, it kind of screams power. The design is simple but effective, which kind of fits the Orion species perfectly. Just like the Orions themselves, the ship is bulky, muscly, and tough. Now, when we talk about Star Trek Online version of the ship, the Fleet Orion Blackguard Flight Deck Assault Carrier, Jesus Christ, this is a long name. There are some key features worth highlighting. Here's the lowdown of the Fleet Orion Blackguard. The difference between the Fleet version and the Tier 6 version is that Tier 6 fleet ships don't have the typical 5th Starship Mastery level, so no Starship trait is unlocked here, but this ship still packs a punch. So if you don't have the Zen version of the ship, or any ship, if you're buying Tier 6 version, fleet ship, you'll need a fleet ship module. Well, you need 5 fleet ship modules to buy it. If you do have a Zen version, you can buy it for 1 fleet ship module. Now, let's dive into some of the key flight deck carrier features. Flight deck carrier mastery levels. We have level 1, absorptive hull plating, which gives you 25 physical damage resistance rating and 25 kinetic damage resistance rating. Level 2 is called rapid repairs. It regenerates 1.25 of your maximum hull every 3 seconds while in space, and twice that amount when you're out of combat. Level 3 is quick deployment. You will get 20% reduced recharge time for launching carrier pet crafts, plus you'll get 50% rank up XP for all your hangar pets. The more pets, the more power. Level 4 is the enhanced hull plating, which gives you plus 25 for all energy damage and radiation damage resistance rating. With all these features, it's clear that the Fleet Orion Blackguard flight deck assault carrier isn't just about the looks. It's built to survive and support your fleet in battle. So, whether you're taking on big enemies or supporting your team, this ship is a nice ship to have. I don't know where it stands now. I have to mention, I'm not a DPS chaser. I don't look into like the big leagues and, you know, the highest numbers and stuff like that. Everything you hear from me when I talk about whether it's a good or bad ship for the game, I'm talking about the storylines in the game, maybe some TFOs and stuff like that. So take it with a grain of salt. It's okay ship. I didn't play it that much. I'm currently playing with it just to try it out. It's okay. It's nothing to write home about, but it's fine. And that's a wrap on The Hunt Is On, the second episode in the Empire arc here in Star Trek Online. We've covered a lot of ground in this one, from the story and gameplay to talking about our trusty bridge officers and, of course, tons of Orions. Plus, we took a deep dive into one of their ships, the Fleet Orion Blackguard Flight Deck Assault Carrier. I literally have to have this written on a piece of paper because I'm gonna forget it every single time. A nice addition to your fleet. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share the video with your fellow Star Trek fans. It really helps out the channel and you won't want to miss any of the upcoming episodes. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the Empire arc, and as always, keep exploring the stars. Qapla'!